Day 2 of the YSL RICO trial was a huge success for Young Thug, as many are realizing why you should always pay for the best lawyer that you can get. Thug's lawyer broke down all of the evidence the prosecutors shared about Thug's team affiliations, his lyrics about crimes, and even what the rap name Young Thug even means. His opening statement to the jury would be the lawyer explaining what Young Thug, the name, actually meant.
That was not what Thug meant to Jeffrey. Thug meant and means to Jeffrey something very personal. It was his path that if he could ever make it as a musical artist and help his family, himself, and as many others out of this endless cycle of hopelessness, he would be truly humble under God. That's what Thug means.
Trying to give Young Thug a very good look inside of the courtroom to the jury, this entire jury took months to get, as every single one of them were not allowed to know who Young Thug was as a music artist. So this is their first time ever hearing about this rapper, so hearing what his name actually means, allegedly, is a good, positive look. The following argument was that his lawyer would break down what the song Pushing P really stands for, as it apparently means pushing positivity.
That is a P. Jeffrey's fingers are down. And what you'll learn is that Jeffrey just released with Sergio Kitchens, performer known as Gunna, a song that is wildly popular. It's around the globe. It's called Pushing P. And it's positivity. It means any circumstance you're in, if you think positively about something, you can make it through. You're pushing positivity. You're pushing P. Jeffrey is showing the P.
With Young Thug's lawyer sounding very confident and convincing, some of the jury members actually might be believing what he is saying here. Thug's lawyer would then follow it up, breaking down some of the lyrics in Thug's music. As a report would read, the state says when Thug said 24M on a man, that he was talking about putting money towards someone. In reality, Thug was talking about the $24 million diamond that Lil Uzi Vert got in his forehead.
It is the rapper with the surgically implanted pink diamond in his forehead. The police bury this. The prosecution buries this. I will show it to you. Now, the evidence will show, they may say, oh, it's on. We made a mistake. There's no mistakes here. This is a big deal. This is a bill of indictment in Fulton County, Georgia in 2023.
Everyone watching this most likely knows what Young Thug's music is truly about. So you know a majority of the evidence his lawyer is breaking down here is likely a lie. However, the important part is that the jury has no idea that it is. So Thug's lawyer is sounding very confident, making it very believable to a jury of likely elderly people that have a really high chance of believing all of this evidence he's breaking down. As Young Thug's lawyer would then finish his statement, telling the jury that Young Thug is a Studio G.
These are not unique and say, oh, that's a Donovan Thomas Tom. Jeffrey sings about cars all the time. He names all different cars. They just pulled out the top. These are common themes. This is, you will learn, studio. They're in the studio. They are creating music for us to listen to.
As Thug's lawyer once again is claiming that Young Thug has no ties to the streets, and that he doesn't do any illegal crimes out in the real world, and that he's just making up stories for music so then it could be entertaining to a listener. Young Thug's lawyer did an amazing job, and also having the judge angry at the prosecutors, it just makes Young Thug look even better. As 30 minutes into the opening arguments yesterday, it would be announced, judge in the Young Thug trial isn't happy with the state because they never turned in all of the slides they plan to use in their opening statements.
Is there anything else you're going to use in opening you haven't shown to defense counsel? He's telling us. Well, I said that. I told you to do that a week ago. Because here's what I told you was going to happen. I've got a jury that's out right now that's being interrupted. And Mr. Williams, you should have made your motion or should have told me about that an hour ago or when you found out about it. Not hijack me at the bench about that. You did what you had to do, but I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about any of this. Because this is stuff we could take care of before our jury comes in. And that makes you all, lessen your ability as advocates and lessen our ability for this jury to go ahead and get this case seamlessly. This is what I told you all was going to happen. So,
as the judge stated in the start of the clip, he already told these prosecutors to be ready last week. As fast forward to today, these prosecutors did not have any of the slides and evidence ready for the opening day, as this just happened last week where the judge was yelling at them.
Your Honor, we would ask because we would ask that all of this be reserved for the 16th because this all came up in September. You said you allowed us to.
I am really annoyed about this, Ms. Hilton. I just am. This is ridiculous. Your witness list has grown by 2/3 since then. And I don't know why. You better have a dang good explanation on the 16th, because if you don't, I'm going to exclude it. Okay. But right now I'm telling you, without anything further, it's gone.
Well, we would like to
exclude a lot more on that date because this is ridiculous. There is no plausible explanation I've gotten and that would suffice that we just kind of keep, you keep dripping and driving out evidence.
For more context, the prosecutors are trying to sneak in 200 plus witnesses to come to trial and share alleged crimes that Jeffrey committed, all while not sharing the names of these witnesses or even what crimes they witnessed. This trial is already stressing out the judge so much to the point where he had to bring in a service dog just to calm him down.
Here behind me is this bell that starts jingling, all right? And if you hear a jingling sound like a bell, please don't think that I'm doing anything creepy up here, all right? I have a service dog behind me. His name is Jack. I think some of you may have seen him already. He lives the best life ever. He's pampered. He's really, and he is a Labrador Retriever. He's about almost 2.5, 3 years old at this point in time. So, but if you hear that bell, that's him moving around, all right? He doesn't bark. He rarely gets interested in what's going on, so he might come up here and look, but that's about it, all right? Don't bring him any food either, okay? All right? He is spoiled rotten, so please don't try and throw any food back here behind me or anything like that. He doesn't need anything else, okay? But if you hear that bell, hear that sound.
As the prosecution have no idea what they're doing in this trial. An example is on the first day of trial, the prosecutors would begin their opening statements against Thug, where they would reveal that when YSL members would get in trouble and in sticky situations in the street, instead of calling young Thug and telling him the issue, the YSL members instead would call Thug's sister, where she would then relay the message to young Thug.
You will hear evidence that when members and associates of YSL got in trouble, got locked up, the first person they called was either this defendant or one of his family members. Now, they didn't call him directly because he knew and they knew that he needed to have distance between himself and the crimes members and associates of YSL were committing on behalf of. So they would reach out to his sister and have his sister reach out to somebody else and eventually get back to King's Line, as they call him.
However, once again, the prosecutors never mention this evidence towards young Thug's lawyers like they're supposed to before the trial begins. It almost seems as if they're just making these things up to make young Thug look bad in front of the jury. Another example of them making up evidence is that they announced they'll be calling Walter Murphy, aka DK, to the stand. He's an alleged co-founder of YSL, and they want him to testify about an armed robbery. DK was the first co-defendant to take a plea deal in December of 2022. As Thug's lawyers would say, they interviewed DK, and DK claimed that he did not know anything about what the state says he will testify about.
Mr. Murphy never says that Mr. Williams is involved in this armed robbery. He never said. What he says was, "I've done all this work for Thug. he carried bags for Jeffrey Williams while on tour. These two people grew up together. He said nothing about a crime.
Is Mr. Murphy testifying at trial? Yes?
Well, I've interviewed him.
The state is accusing DK of committing an armed robbery on Young Thug's behalf. However, DK stated that he has no idea what the prosecutors are even talking about. As this seems to be a trend, as even Meek Mill would tweet, Jeff is gonna beat this case. It is too messy, as these prosecutors are just so unprofessional. It was even reported yesterday, Young Thug's lawyer is fed up with the state, interrupting him every 5 seconds. He told the judge he's ready to start being petty during trial and start doing the same thing back to them.
So, I sit here, I don't interrupt Miss Love at all. And if this is the way, Your Honor, and I need to bring this up to the court, if we are going to be doing opening statements with interruptions, cross-examination with interruptions, I am going to ask the court to admonish and take action against Ms. Love, because I sat here for a year, it feels like, being interrupted on every quality, proper statement, and all the objections are the same. Asked and answered, vague,
Your Honor, I'm
not,
going to
excuse me,
object.
Ms. Love.
Let me finish, man.
You have to.
And I'm going to object to being spoken to by Mr. Steele in a
speaking-
condescending manner on the record.
I'm speaking with
let
the court.
let him finish, and then I'll let you respond, okay?
Thank you, Your
Let
Honor.
him finish. All right.
And if we're going to sit here during opening statements, then I'm telling the court, and I don't want to do this, I am going to object to everything that I believe there is a good faith basis.
This is why even Young Thug's girlfriend, Mariah the Scientist, hinted towards his early release, as she would speak about marrying Young Thug once he gets out of jail on a recent podcast.
Do you think that marriage is the next step for you, Young Thug?
I mean, when he gets out of jail?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think either of us want a jail wedding. Yeah, but I feel like he definitely wants to be married, and I feel like I do too.
Do you ever imagine life outside once he's out?
For sure. We talk about it all day. Okay. All day long. I mean, I feel like being imaginative can help every human being on earth not lose your mind. Mm-hmm. It is like a little slight state of delusion.
As Thug's girlfriend and his family are very confident about his release, and it's all due to, once again, the prosecutors, as it really seems the only evidence they have is all in Young Thug's lyrics. As DJ Akademiks would report, judge in the Young Thug case allows the use of 17 different lyrics against him and co-defendants.
Is going to admit for the limited purpose thus far, the state's request to apply the evidence statute as written. I'm going to conditionally admit particularized lyrics, and those lyrics are found within states 18. There's 17 sets of lyrics. I'll conditionally admit those pending lyrics, depending upon or subject to a foundation that is properly laid.
As in multiple Young Thug songs, he would break down on how certain crimes were committed and who they even targeted. As in Young Thug's song titled You, Thug raps the lyrics, and I quote, "Honestly, truth be told, YSL won't fold. Pick him off from the balcony, YSL wipes a nose." As this relates to a crime where certain YSL members were targeting an op while he was out on his balcony. Court file suggests that YSL members sat parked in a vehicle outside of an apartment building, waiting for an op to come out on his balcony. Once he did, you can likely guess what happened then, as the next set of lyrics are in his song Bad Boy featuring Juice WRLD, where Young Thug would rap the lyrics, "I went at his mommy, now he no longer mentions me," as this is all during the famous YFN Lucci vs Young Thug beef years ago, where things would escalate really fast between the two. Thug wanted to put a quick end to it, so he had YSL members target Lucci's mother. Ever since then, YFN Lucci hasn't done a single thing towards Young Thug.
Well, he's featured on the song. So the song is actually by an artist that goes by the name of Juice WRLD, and it's featuring Mr. Williams. The song is called Bad Boy, and Mr. Williams says, "I shot at his mommy, now he no longer mention me." Now this would seem again insignificant if you're just looking at these words. However, in this case, in the height of the 2050 between the YSL gang and the IF, we have cases in which individuals of YSL the opposition's mother's house. Mr. Rayshawn Bennett, also known as YFN Lucci, We have 2 incidents in January 22 of 2015 and January 26 of 2015, where his mother's home, Mr. Bennett's mother's home,
Another one very serious issue that was ongoing for Thug was that YSL members that made plea deals coming to trial and testifying against him. However, thankfully, once again, Thug's lawyers would put a quick end to it. As it would be announced, Young Thug's lawyer files a motion to redact/remove any mention in the indictment of the 9 co-defendants who took guilty pleas. He argues the fact that co-defendants pleading guilty shouldn't be used as evidence against Thug or others in the trial, as a motion would then be granted when it was announced. They will also redact overt acts in the indictment committed by people who are no longer part of the trial, as while the motion got granted, Thug would be seen giving a huge thumbs up inside of the courtroom. As why this is so important is because when Thug's co-defendant and right-hand man Durante Beebe pled guilty to his RICO charges against him, it made Thug look a lot more guilty, as Durante Beebe also pled guilty to participation in criminal street activity, theft by receiving stolen property, violation of Georgia's Controlled Substance Act, armed robbery, hijacking of a motor vehicle, and firearm charges.
And you give this guilty plea freely and voluntarily, means your own decision to enter a plea this afternoon? Yes. Okay, all right. And sir, then I find that based upon the responses that you've given and the colloquy in this case and the court's questioning of you, that your pleas are freely and voluntarily entered. I find a factual basis. I'm going to go ahead and accept your pleas as tendered and negotiate, sentence you to the as indicated. You're 23 years old. You've had enough trial in your life at this point in time. Would you agree? Yes. Time to have a little testimony. Time to reclaim your own life, and that you can do in this case, or if you just separate yourself from the people that you've been hanging out with. Find some new friends, find some new people that are going to be positive in your life, and if they don't add to your life, then you need to cut them loose.
Beebe was only sentenced to 5 years in prison with 10 years of probation, and he was also the 9th co-defendant to strike a plea deal in his trial. So him admitting guilt of several of these very serious crimes, he's also the right-hand man of Young Thug, so if he pled guilty, it's likely that Thug would be guilty of these as well. It also didn't help that Gunna also pled guilty to his charges, as it's not hard to prove to the jury that Gunna and Young Thug were best friends.
You agree or acknowledge that statements are true, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I became affiliated with YSL around 2016. Is that true as it pertains to you, Mr. Kitchens?
Yes, ma'am.
YSL is a music label, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance.
Yes, ma'am.
You were present when law enforcement officers stopped a vehicle in which you were present along with Jeffrey Williams, wherein hydrocarbons and a firearm were recovered. These items did not belong to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you acknowledge the following statement? I recognize, accept, and deeply regret that my talent and music indirectly furthered YSL to the detriment of my community. YSL again. Is that your statement or acknowledgement?
Yes.